How's it going, everybody? Welcome to a new kind of video that I kind of want to start out on this channel. Basically, what's been going on recently for me is I have made most of my money for my general expenses while I'm at college. So, as far as groceries, food, just hanging out, all that money I've been making off of sports betting. So, every time I tell people that, they'll basically say, well, can you give me some bet recommendations? So, I've heard it enough at this point that I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start making YouTube videos about really the best ways to make money with sports gambling. And I know there are definitely going to be some skeptics out there because a lot of people are under this impression that, you know what, you can't beat Vegas. And that is not true. And just follow along with some of these bets, and it will be pretty easy to prove that if you are systematic about the way that you're betting, you can win and you can make a significant chunk of money beating some of these sports books, especially now that it's legal to do online in quite a few states, including Colorado, which is where I live. So I don't know exactly how I'm going to structure all these videos, but with NFL Week 1 starting tomorrow, I did want to get this video in quickly because there are a lot of really, really good bets out there right now, especially for Thursday Night Football, and that's the game between the Chiefs and the Texans. One of the biggest things that you want to abuse when you're betting on any sports book is some of the promotions that they give out because they want people signing up and they want you telling your friends to sign up. So they're giving out all kinds of what some of them will call no-brainer odds boosts. This week on Thursday Night Football, there are three incredibly good ones. The first one I want to talk about is on DraftKings. That is of the I use about four sports books. I use DraftKings, I use FanDuel, I use Fox Bet, and I use BetMGM. And those are my four favorite for a variety of reasons that I'll break down in a future video, but those are the four mainly that I'll be talking about. On DraftKings, right now they have a no-brainer odds boost, max bet of $50, where they are moving the spread on Kansas City to plus 101, which essentially means that Kansas City has to come within 101 points of winning that game. They're already pretty heavily favored. They're not going to lose by 102 points. It hasn't happened in like the past 50 years. I don't know that it's happened in NFL history of any team losing by that much. Easy money. That's a free $45 at the minus 110 odds they're giving you. If you have never done any kind of sports betting before, that is the first one to start with. Just take it. It's essentially free money. The next one that I want to talk about is on BetMGM. And this one is not quite as good, but I like it quite a bit, and it has the potential to make you more money. This one is Patrick Mahomes over 300 passing yards. It has been boosted on BetMGM from minus 110, which is essentially even odds because of how sportsbooks work, to plus 200, which basically means at minus 110, you're talking about a 50-50 chance of this happening based on the odds that it is normally set at. Now they're giving you plus 200 odds, which means that you will triple your money. So a $50 bet pays out $100 plus your $50 stake back, and you come out with $150. This is when the odds boost is that great, especially when you see a boost going from minus, which is favorite odds, to plus, which is underdog odds. Those are the best ones to take because you get a better than 50-50 chance at more than 50-50 money. So that is one of my favorites and probably the most profitable of the ones I'll be talking about today. So definitely check that one out if you're a BetMGM user or would like to be a BetMGM user. On Fox Bet, they're also running a pretty great promo. Bet $10 on that Thursday Night Football game. You don't have to bet anything specific. I believe there's a minus 200 odds minimum, so you can't just take an easy money. You can't take Kansas City money line, which is at about minus 400 right now, I believe. So you have to take some kind of reasonable bet. But if you bet $10 on that game on anything, they will give you a $10 free bet for every touchdown that Patrick Mahomes throws. So in this one, I ended up going with just taking the over on the points total, which was a 54.5. I like that one because I think this game has high potential to be a shootout, and it goes hand in hand because if Patrick Mahomes scores a lot of touchdowns and gets me a lot of free bets, then I'll also get the money on hitting the over. So that was the one I went with, but really the key here is you want to bet on it just to get those free bets on the Mahomes touchdowns. If he gets 1 touchdown, you break even. If he gets 2 touchdowns, you doubled your money. Granted, it's in free bet, so you'll have to bet it again before you can just withdraw it in cash. But it's good money, and you're going to win a couple of those free bets. So that's the way to go. So there are a few other like easy no-brainer kind of bets that you're gonna find floating around. Sometimes there'll be ads on Twitter, whatever it is. I'm not gonna talk about them because mostly they're new user exclusive. So if you are a new user and you haven't done any kind of sports betting before, definitely be on the lookout for those. I believe FanDuel has a bet $5 to win $125 on Kansas City winning the game, something like that. But with this channel, I want to talk mostly about bets that anyone can use, so not the new user exclusives, but always be on the lookout for that because they can give you some really good odds. So aside from Thursday Night Football, some of the key things that you're going to want to watch for on NFL Week 1 are teams that no one quite knows what to make of. So NFL Week 1 is my favorite week to bet because you can get some really good odds on teams that you will not get down the line. Because when you get into week 5, 6, 7, and so on, Vegas has got a good idea of who these teams are and who the real contenders are, who the pretenders are, why teams are winning, whatever. Right now, there has not been a down of football played this season, and no one is quite sure, especially about teams that have quite a few new pieces. So teams like the Bucks, teams like the Colts, teams with quite a few younger players like the Broncos. You also want to look at teams with some older players that you think could regress, like maybe even the Saints are a candidate for that this year. So you want to look for some of those matchups where maybe people aren't quite sure what to think of this team. You can find a lot of those teams that when you talk to different experts, they all have a different opinion on. Those are the teams you want to look at, and you want to take your stand and really look into it and see where you stand on that team, and that's where you look for your bets. So the Bucks and Saints play each other this week. That's a good game to look at because the Saints might be a regression candidate. The Bucks could be a team that blows up, or they could also be a super overrated team. So both of these teams that you could go either way on, if you have a strong opinion on one of them, you want to make that bet, and you want to make maybe a couple bets on that game. See what the best odds are around that. So my personal favorite line of week 1, just money line bet, is the Broncos versus the Titans. And the best odds I found on them is plus 117 on DraftKings. And going on, just on a little tangent here, one of the biggest rookie mistakes people make with sports betting is only using one sports book. You don't want to do that. If you're going to be sports betting, I usually wait until there's a good promo to sign up for a new one or something like that. But you want to be using as many as possible because they all have different lines. For this game in particular, the line ranged from plus 110 to plus 117. If I bet on it at plus 110 when I could have got it at plus 117 at a different sports book, I'm essentially throwing away free money because I'm taking worse odds on the same bet. So always shop around. Just like you would if you're buying any kind of product, shop around for your money line or any kind of line because you want to make sure you're getting the best deal possible. This one in particular for me, the Broncos or the Titans, plus 117. You're getting the Broncos as an underdog, which makes a lot of sense. The Titans were just in the AFC Championship game last year, so it makes sense that they'd be favored in this game. But the Titans, to me, are one of those teams that is full of regression candidates. Derrick Henry is coming off a 400 touch season where he definitely took a beating, and he's a guy that gives out a beating too, which doesn't bode great in his favor. He's a guy that I've shied away from in fantasy football, and that I like I said, I will be betting against this week because that offense runs through him. And if there's a problem with Derrick Henry this year, the Titans are going to struggle. They also have Ryan Tannehill, who had a career year last year, which is great, but when you see a guy at that age in his late 20s having a career year, late 20s, early 30s, I believe, actually, with Ryan Tannehill, you want to be skeptical a little bit because that's exactly what a regression candidate looks like. A guy who had a major outlier last year that could come down to earth hard this year. The Titans could be an average team. The Broncos, on the other hand, are full of breakout candidates. They have Courtland Sutton, who's gotten better every year in his career, catching passes from Drew Lock, who only played 5 games last year, but he flashed. And quarterbacks in year two can be. I mean, we just watched Lamar Jackson win MVP in year two. We just watched Drew Lock win MVP, or sorry, Patrick Mahomes win MVP in year two the year before. So year two quarterbacks can break out big time. And my favorite candidate for a breakout this year, I go back and forth between Kyler Murray and Drew Lock, but I really like Drew Lock. They also just added Jerry Jeudy, who, rookie receivers don't typically contribute as much as a lot of other rookies, but Jerry Jeudy might be the most polished pro-ready receiver I've seen coming into the draft in a few years. He's an incredible route runner, which is one of the things that rookies tend to struggle with adjusting to at the NFL level. So I think he hits the ground running better than most receivers you see in a typical year, which takes this offense to the next level. And that's not even including Noah Fant, a year two tight end. And similar to receivers and quarterbacks, year 2 and 3 is really that prime window when you're talking about those offensive skill positions breaking out. So this could be a lethal offense. And we all know what the Broncos defense is. It's a very, very strong defense. They did just lose Von Miller, and it looks like that might be a season-ending injury. But regardless, they still have a very strong defense, and when you add an offense that looks like it could potentially be lethal, that is a team that you want to bet on, especially in week one when you can get them as an underdog. You want to be in on the breakout before it happens. If you're in on the breakout after it happens, you're not going to win that much money. But if you predict the team to explode before they explode, that's how you make your money. So that's my favorite line of the week. Another team that I like quite a bit as a breakout candidate this year is the Lions. They're a favorite already, so I'm not going to put too much on them in week one. But teams like that they're the perfect storm of, maybe I lose my bet this week, but there's a better than average chance that this one really hits for me. So that's my favorite bet of week one in the NFL. Later this week or maybe next week, I'm going to start putting out videos explaining what some of these things mean. So what betting the spread versus betting the money line versus betting the over-under, some of the props you want to look for, and just what the odds mean. I know I've said plus 117 on this Broncos line, and if you're new to sports betting, you might not know what that means. So stay tuned, and I will have more in-depth technical videos to kind of explain the ins and outs. And then I'll keep doing videos like this each week where I give you what I think the best bets are. In each week of football, I'll also do hockey. I'll also do basketball. Pretty much any sport. I'll tell you how I've been making my money, and hopefully it will work for you too. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.